It's Mr. Trevor from Mesa County Libraries here with another Explore Mesa County video for you. Today we are at Colorado National Monument, and we're here at the Visitor Center where we're going to meet a park ranger, but then we're going to get to go back outside and look at the actual monument. There's John Otto. We're going to learn more about that man, and we're going to find out what does it take for a place to become a monument. Shall we go inside? Hey there,
Hi.
It's Sam.
Good to see you, Mr. Trevor.
It's good to see you, everybody. This is Ranger Sam Heinritz.
Hi, friends. My name is Sam. People call me Ranger Sam.
It's so great to be here in the Visitor Center at the monument. A lot of times before, Sam has come to the library to talk to kids there. This time, those of us who are here working from the library get to come to the monument, which is really neat. Thanks for having us, Sam.
Yes, I'm so excited you're here today. And like you said, we find ourselves in a visitor center. A visitor center is a place that people come to plan their trip before they get started exploring a place like a national monument. And so if you were to come to this place, Colorado National Monument, your first stop might be the visitor center, where you might take a look at a map and plan where you want to go adventure for the day. You can also stop by the Visitor Center to pick up a Junior Ranger activity guide. And inside this book are activities for kids of all ages from 1 to 99. You can find activities here that will lead you to a badge at the end of your adventures if you do complete the required amount of activities. So this badge is something that we like to give out to folks who complete this activity book, and the badge signifies them becoming a junior park ranger.
I think we should go through the Visitor Center and check out the actual monument. Is that okay, Sam?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. Oh, such an amazing place. We're so high up here. It's so beautiful.
We are high up. You know, in fact, we're at the top of what you would call a hanging canyon. So that's one of the things that makes this place special from other parks and monuments that also have canyons, is that our canyons are up high over a valley, and they were lifted up a long time ago when Earth cracked open at a fault line just on the south side of the monument, and all these canyons lifted up to create canyons that were above the valley rather than at the bottom of the valley.
So this place is called Colorado National Monument rather than some other kind of name that might be a little more specific. Why is it that it has kind of a general name?
Colorado National Monument. So Colorado National Monument was a name chosen when this place first became a monument in 1911, which makes it one of the earlier national park sites. What made this place special was the incredible geologic. There's a swift. Was the incredible geologic processes and geologic features you can find here. So not only if you came to visit this place, you not only would see some of these incredible cliffs and canyons, but you could also learn about the story of weathering and erosion, two incredible forces that have helped to shape and carve the landscape of the Grand Valley, but particularly right here at Colorado National Monument. It is a special thing too, you know, to become a national monument takes a lot of work. And so places like this in the past have had champions or people who really stood up to defend the need to protect these places. People thought, you know what, this place should be set aside so that we can't build there, so that this place can be a place where people can come hiking or road touring or photography or climbing. So it was set aside through something called the Antiquities Act. That is an act, it's a law, meaning that a president can designate a site as a national park site. And for us, when you make a place a site through the Antiquities Act, it becomes a monument. And to become a national park, you have to become that through an act of Congress, which is definitely possible. But for us, today we're still a monument. Through that Antiquities Act, which is that law that made us a special preserved place. And so this place is actually not owned by our superintendent or by me or by the president. It's owned by each one of us, by each of you. And so when you come to visit this place, it's important that we take care of it like we do all public resources, that we care for it and clean up after ourselves. We leave no trace, kind of like when you check out a book and you take it home and you hope to take care of it as well as the person before you did. So it's important to pack it out. So we have a saying, we say, pack out what you pack in. So whatever comes with you has to go out with you, or you can leave it in a trash can if you find one of those.
That's right, because I really like that everybody who came here before us today, they didn't leave any trash around. If I look down into the valley, I don't see any trash, or nobody's drawn any graffiti on it, and I really think that's great. So I want to do the same thing for the people who come here maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it, and that's part of what being a junior ranger is too. It's finding your way to contribute as a steward of our public lands.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, Sam, is what if a kid who is watching this today thinks, I'd like to be a park ranger someday when I'm a grown-up? Now you talked about being a junior ranger, but how would a kid go about starting on a path to maybe become a ranger like you someday?
Yeah, so just like I did, reaching out to a park that you're interested in, they oftentimes have a volunteer coordinator who can help set you up with an assignment where you can volunteer and help out with special projects. And that's a great way to get to know how our national parks work and the types of people that work there. Studying any of the science behind the scenery is another great way to become a park ranger. So here we have biologists and geologists and paleontologists and archaeologists, and they all study different kinds of sciences. And so, you know, pursuing a science specialty is another great way to work in a national park.
So should we talk about some of the specific places that are on the monument?
Yeah.
What do you call them?
So there's a few different ways you might refer to the rocks. If you look out behind me and you see some towers, you could call them a tower. One of our favorite terms is a monolith. So a monolith, if you think about that word, mono means one, right? And lith, like a lithic. Do you know what a lith is?
I think it might mean rock.
Absolutely, you're right. So a monolith is one rock, so like one rock tower. And we have lots of those here. They're part of the weathering and erosion story we were talking about earlier. So all of the rain and water and snow that falls onto this landscape carves and cuts rocks into really interesting shapes. And so some of those interesting shapes are the ones right behind me. So if you look out over my shoulder, you'll see down low, that monolith is praying hands. Above that is the organ pipe. And just beyond both of those monoliths is the Independence Monument, which is probably the most famous, I'd say, of all of the monoliths in the park.
Is it true that people climb up to the top of Independence Monument?
It is true, yes. Wow. Have you ever seen photographs of people climbing it on the 4th of July?
I've seen the photographs. It was just hard to believe. I've been at the bottom of it and I look up and it's so high and it seems kind of small for something to climb up.
Yes, it is kind of skinny on from certain angles, but there are several climbing routes on Independence Monument. And so if you were to wear a harness and have a really adventurous spirit, you could climb up that monolith too. And in fact, our local search and rescue team, the Mesa County Search and Rescue Team, they climb it every 4th of July to place the American flag on the monolith to celebrate Independence Day.
And that's grown-ups, right?
That is grown-ups, yeah. You know, I wonder if any kids have ever climbed Independence Monument.
I don't know. It takes lots of training, I'm sure.
A lot of training, a lot of safety courses, and a lot of courage, and yeah, it would take a lot to climb that.
A lot more courage than I have, that's for sure.
I can say I've never climbed it.
Sam, can you tell us about your uniform? Tell us why you wear certain things and just tell us all about it?
Yeah, absolutely. The uniform makes us pretty recognizable. So all park rangers across the National Park Service wear the same uniform I'm wearing. And there are over 400 National Park Service sites. So anywhere you go, if you were to go hiking or exploring in a national park, if you look around the landscape and you see one of these flat hats, you know there's a ranger underneath it wearing it, who'd be happy to help you plan your day and tell you a little bit about the stories that the these landscapes tell. Park rangers love to tell stories, and our uniform actually tells a story. So on the patch that every National Park Service park ranger wears is a story. The arrowhead itself represents the cultural resources inside of our national parks. So that patch is all about telling the stories of the people on these landscapes. The giant sequoia tree is about the protection of all plant life inside of a national park. We also have the bison, which represents the protection of all wildlife and the establishment of our first national park in Yellowstone. The mountains in the background, they represent the protection of the geologic resources, so the rocks. And of course, there's a little bit of water there, and that represents the water as well. So all of these things are protected inside of our national parks.
So it has an arrowhead. Does that refer to the indigenous people who lived here originally?
Yeah, so across the service, the arrowhead refers to all the people who would have, made a life on the landscape. Particularly here, yes. So there were people on this landscape up until the 1880s who were indigenous to this place until they were forcibly removed through the Ute Removal Act. But that arrowhead represents their legacy here and their role on this landscape. The Ute people were the most recent group of indigenous folks who lived here, and before them there were other groups who moved in and out of these areas, but the Ute people left the last mark on this landscape before settlers moved into the Grand Valley.
Well, Sam, here in the visitor center, I was seeing more pictures of this man named John Otto, and we saw him outside too. Can you tell us about who he is and why you have images of him here at the monument?
Sure. So John Otto, he was the first park ranger of this place. So he came to this community, to this valley in 1906, a few years before this place even became Colorado National Monument. And he was one of those champions I was talking about earlier, one of those people who really encouraged the community and politicians to support this place becoming a national monument. He explored and traveled through these canyons, and he thought they were amazing and beautiful, and he wanted people to have this place to explore for themselves. And he knew that preserving it was a key to protecting it for the future. And so he arrived here in 1906, and it was only 5 years later, through a lot of hard work and a lot of love, that he helped make this place into a national monument.
Wow, sounds like a really interesting guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great stories about John Otto, and I think the library actually curates and collects a lot of those letters and stories about Otto's role here in our community.
I also thought of something else. When you come to the monument, you do need to pay a little bit. It's not very much, but sometimes you can't afford it. Or maybe you're going to a lot of parks and you would like to figure out a way that it wouldn't cost too much. I just remembered that the library has passes to go to parks like the Colorado National Monument.
It sure does. There's a backpack program at the library. So if you were to go to the library and ask one of the librarians for the backpack, or go online and go to check one out, you can take home a backpack full of resources just like the ones inside my backpack, and a pass. And that pass will get you into Colorado National Monument. You and a vehicle of your family members or your friends, one vehicle full can get into the park for free with that pass.
Right, and the library will let you check it out for free. That's so neat.
That is neat.
I'm glad we have that partnership.
Me too.
Well, thank you so much, Sam. We've learned a lot today.
Yeah, great. Thanks for coming to visit us today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sam.
All
and
right.
thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you during the next Explore Mesa County video.